Okay, we're up to the Mishnah on Lamed Hey on the base. We're learning for Tzchus Rafur Shalema, for Hadassah Bela Bas from Rachel, and for Esther Bas Meima. She'll have the Richtige Rafur. Says the Mishnah. Shachtoi al Manas Laniach. We had this before, fellas. You were introduced to before. Now we know the halacha is for Chutz Zman and Chutz L'Makaymai, it has to be an Achila. Ila Achilas Adam or Achilas Mizbeach. Achilas Mizbeach is the spritzing of the dam. Or it could be what? It could be the burning of the emurim, or even putting the blood on the shirayim on the side. Okay? Now, you don't have such a machshava. What's your machshava? To shechter al menas, le'niach es damai, to leave the blood out. Oy emurav, or to leave the emurim out. Le'machar. In other words, it's chutz lizman. I'm not going to, in other words, this is not a machshava of achila. It's machshava. I'm just not going to do it. I'm not going to do it today. I'll do it tomorrow. I'm not going to burn the emurim today. I'll burn them tomorrow. Oi, important. Lohitzion lechutz, or I have a machshava to take it outside the azara, either what the blood or the emurim, which would passel it. Rabbi Yehuda paisel. Rabbi Yehuda says it's passel. See Rashi quickly. The bottom line. Afal pishen kan le'achil of le'aktara. Even though you don't have a psul of pigel, of the machshava of achila, or haktara, which is achilas mizbeach, or Gemara Farish Taima, the Gemara will explain the tam for Rabbi Yehuda, the Chachamim machshirim, and the Chachamim are machshav. So Rabbi Yehuda is mechadesh, that you could have an other machshava, not of chutz l'makayim, not of chutz l'zman, and it would pass the carbon. Right? That's a chiddush. The other another a Pesach or a Chat Shaloi Lishma would also passel. The Gemara, the Mishnah is going to give a whole list of machshavas of pasel that Rabbi Yehuda would agree. So, in other words, Rabbi Yehuda is very interesting. He doesn't have a carte blanche statement of every pasel, only to leave it over the next day or to take it out. Those two machshavas would passel the carbon. But on other psulim, which we're going to see right now, don't passel the carbon. So the Gemara will have to address what's the difference between case number 1 and 2 and all the following cases, which I'm going to read to you right now. Almanas yishechtet litnein al gabe hakevesh. You're going to put it on the you're going to do the zrika on the ramp. Shaloi kenegad yisoid, or you're going to do the zrika on the part of his back that does not have the yisoid. The ones that go below the chut hasukah, above the chut hasukah, you can do shleibim kaimai. Or a carbon that goes inside and goes outside, right? And you have the machshava to do the opposite. Or sheyachlu tameim, you shech the carbon with the machshava that you're going to feed it to tameim. Or shekriu tameim, or tameim will go ahead and be makriv it. Or sheyachlu arelim, or a fashtupta, a person who's in oral. He's again we had machloikas Rashi and you remember guys we spoke of that beautiful machloikas Rashi Rabbeinu Tam, right? That like Rashi is a person who can't have it because his brothers died. Like Rabbeinu Tam is pashis and mumay. Sheyakru arelim, or arelim will burn it. L'shaber atzmais pesach, you bring a carbon pesach on the condition to break the bones. Or lechli menu na, to eat it when it's not broiled, it's half it's raw, or a shtickle cooked. Or to mix the blood with dam psulim, kasha. In all these cases, the whole case I gave you, Rabbi Yehuda would say it's kasha. She'ein machshava paiseles ela b'chutz zman b'chutz l'kaymai v'apesach v'achata shaloi l'shmai. So this Yisodus the Mishnah. We hear the chiddush of Rabbi Yehuda that a machshava to go ahead and leave out the next day, or to leave imurim out the next day, or to take out the dam outside the azara, or the imurim outside the azara, would passel, even though it's not chutz l'zman, chutz l'makom. However, you have then a whole bunch of other cases where he would agree, right? Where he would agree above the chut hasikra, below the chut hasikra, and we'll go through each one as we come. So now here's the Gemara, guys. This is going to be the setup. First, we're going to see the makar for Rabbi Yehuda. Why those two cases are puzzled. And then we're going to see why he agrees in the other cases. And then we're going to see why he agrees in the other cases. That's the first Amid of the Gemara. Says the Gemara, my time with the Rabbi Yehuda. What's the reason for Rabbi Yehuda? What's the reason Rabbi Yehuda says, again, guys, two cases, leaving it over and taking it out, right? What's the reason? So Amar Rabbi Loza, Trey Kroy Ksivi. We got two psukim. We have a pasuk by the Carbon Pesach and a pasuk by the Carbon Toida. Vash date. It says by the by the Carbon Pesach. It says so you have the lashon of soisiru of to leave it over, and whatever's left over you burn. Why does it say by the carbon toida? Ubesar zevach toida shlomav biyom karbano yochal loy yaniach mimenu abayka. You do not loy yaniach. Do not leave it over until the next morning. So by carbon pesach loy soisiru, by zevach loy yonichu. They both seem to mean to give it rest, right? To leave it over. Okay, so now, my time to Yehuda Rebelazah, Trey Kroy Ksivi, Benoisa, Ksiv Echoraima, Leisasum Men Aboiker, right? That's Bekar Pesach. Because of Echoraima, Lo Yaniach Mimenu Aboiker. Now, Im Eina Inyan Lo Niach, if I don't need it Lo Niach, because I know that from Korban Pesach, Tnei Lo Inyan Machshava, Machshavas Hinuach. Use it for what? For the Machshava of Hinuach. So, guys, when it says over here, I don't need to tell me that I don't need to tell me that lo yaniach. Why do you tell me lo yaniach? Because it already says lo siru. I do not leave it over. I know this is a din of nicer. Once I know this is a din of nicer, it's not necessary to say lo yaniach, not to leave it over. The whole reason it's there is to teach me there's such a concept of machshava hinuach, the machshava of leaving over. So therefore, from the second pasuk, where it's unnecessary to say lo yaniach, from there I learn out that if you do leave it over, if you have a machshava to leave it over, you would be possible the carbon. Okay, says the Gemara. Rabbi Yehuda haikra lahachi dasa. The pasuk you just read is coming to teach me that. Guys, listen to this pasuk. The pasuk says, I'm repeating it. Ubisar zevach toida shlomav. The basar of the carbon of the toida shlomav. It's carbon shlomim biyom karbanoi. A lot of extra words, no? Rashi says simply, what could have it said? It could have said, it could have said just what's the lashon? Guys, look at Rashi. When it gets parallel to the first line of the Gemara, the pasuk should have said v'toydasai biyomo yochal. So Memela, this whole pasuk of Besar Zevach Kodesh Lamav is all extra. So the Gemara is going to ask, since it's extra for this, I don't have it extra for Machshava of Hinuach. I don't have it extra for Rabbi Yehuda. Fred the Gemara. Rabbi Yehuda, Hai Krola Hachiuda Asa, Hami Boyle Lechiditanya, the following brisa. Ubesar Zevach Kodesh Lamav, Lamadnu Letoidosh in Cheles Liyom V'Layla. Fellas, a Toidosh is Shlamim. A carbon shlom is eaten for 2 days and a night. The carbon toida is eaten for a day and a night. Where do I know it from? This is what it says in the pasuk. Biyom karbano yochal. The day you bring it, you should eat it, and after that you can't. We spoke out to Eben Ezra, right? The reason why you bring a carbon toida is to thank Hashem for chalachayim. So Memela says that you want to invite as many people as possible. You want to publicize it. So if it can only be in a day and a night, you're going to bring a lot of people. By shanking 2 days in a night, like the Karban Shlomim, you wouldn't go necessarily have the pressure of going ahead and bringing a lot of people. That's the so meaning. I need to teach me that. Chalipin. Let's say you lost the toida, you bought another one and you found it. How do you know, right? In other words, you bought a carbon. You bought the chalipin means you lost it. You bought another one, but didn't bring it yet, and you found the original. So now you have a chalipin of a carbon toida. How do you know that's the day and the night? Fladasai. Again, a carbon toida is a female. It can have a baby. How do you know that baby is also a day and a night? Tamuras, you make a tamura from a toida. How do you know it's a day and a night? Minayin, tamad loymar, ubesar. And it says, the pasuk says, ubesar zevach toidas. And the word ubesar, it's extra. You could have just said ubesar. You could have said toidasai b'yom yochal. By saying the word besar, I learned out that then. Chatas v'yoshem minayin. How do you know chatas v'oshem also day and night? Guys, interesting, right? Guys, you're learning out Kachik Kedoshim from Kachim Kalam. How do you know an Ashman Achatas is day and a night? You're learning out from Toida, Geschmack, right? Guys, Tamlim is Ominayin Rabbi Minayin Chatas Rosham, Tamlim is Zevach. Uminayin l'Rabbi Shalmei Nazir. The Nazir brings a Shlomim. Also, how do you know a day and a night? Shalmei Pesach. These are the carbon Shlomim that accompany the carbon Pesach on your dalit to ensure you're going to eat the carbon Pesach ala sova. You're supposed to eat the carbon Pesach when you're as Mezogin Kenny Zat. When you go ahead and when you're Zat. How do you know that you go ahead when you go ahead? You bring these karbanos on your dalit. So all these are going to even though they're Shlomim, they're going to be a din of a day and a night as opposed to what? As opposed to 2 days and a night. Tamaloim is shlomov. Shlomov, it's shlomim. So in other words, what we're doing, we're dashing the whole pasuk. We're going ahead and we're dashing, we're going ahead and we're dashing the whole pasuk. Okay, lachmei toida, the breads of the toida that accompany it, the chalais urikikan shebenasi that accompany the nazias shlomim. How do you know it's also a day and a night? Minayin tamaloim v'karbanoi. Right. So kula kroani behen lo yaniach. Good. All of them, I apply the word lo yaniach. Lo yaniach, lo yaniach. What does it say? Lo yaniach imenu abayke. Do not leave it to the morning. Fred the Gemara Kasha, you're telling me that this pasuk lo yaniach is to tell me, like Rabbi Yehuda, that the machshava of yinuach pasels. I needed to tell me this litany of halachas, the halachas that day and night apply to all these cases. And for the Gemara in Cain, lema kol lo yisasiru. It should have used the lashon lo yisasiru. My lo yaniach. In other words, you're right. I darshan the pasuk with all those drushes, but in addition, I have another knech. If it meant just to not leave over, use the lashon that's nicer, like say siru b'karim pesach. Use that verb. Why are you saying lo yaniach? So from that lo yaniach is teach me the machshava of yinuach. Good. Okay, so let's go back to the Mishnah now. Back to the Mishnah. Shochtay al menas leniach es damoi oye murav lemachar. So now what's the source? I got a pasuk, right? I got a pasuk lo yeniach oye lahoitzin lechutz. Guys, the pasuk doesn't include that hoitzal lechutz. So good, you learned that part of Rabbi Yehuda's din. What about the second part of Rabbi Yehuda's din? Let's see the Gemara Vaita. Taneu in Hatenach lahaniach lahoitzi ma'ikla meimar. Guys, Rabbi Yehuda said 2 cases. You only explained case 1. You didn't explain case number 2. V'oid time Rabbi Yehuda svarahu. Fellas, you're asking what's the reason for Rabbi Yehuda. You're giving a pasuk. Rabbi Yehuda himself will tell you it's not a pasuk, it's a svara. V'oid. In addition, time Rabbi Yehuda svarahu. The reason Rabbi Yehuda that machshavas hinuach and hoitzah is a svara. The Tanya. Amalem Rabbi Yehuda said to the Chachamim, we have a gerus bi'atem moedim shem hoitziam bechutz apostle. Are you moed if you took it out? It'd be puzzle. Af kishev lahoitzim bechutz puzzle. So in other words, if physically you would take it out, it would be puzzle. So in thought, and you shecht it for that purpose, it's puzzle. Right? Af kishev al niach l'macha puzzle. El the time of Rabbi Yehuda svarahu. The time of Rabbi Yehuda is svara. Guys, what's the svara? If you would leave over the carbon until the next day without thinking anything, would it be puzzle? Absolutely. If you would go ahead and take the dam of the carbon or the basa out, or they moor him out, not the basa, they moor him out, would it be puzzle? Yeah. So what's the svara? If physically you would do it's puzzle, and you thought also, machshav, it's puzzle. Good. That's it. Not the pasuk from Leiniach. Not the pasuk. Okay, guys, now you got a great kasha. Go back to the Mishnah. So now you told me 2 cases. You told me the case of leaving it over, and I saw you told me it's a svara. Now, al menas litain al gabi kevesh or shleikanegad yisoid or litain bump badump badump badump. Guys, are all these cases puzzle? So why in all these cases is Rabbi Yehuda Maida? If you tell me it's a svara, if it would happen, it's puzzle. So Mamela, yes. So Rabbi Yehuda is going to have to learn up each case individually. Why, if you have that machshava, it's not puzzle. Because again, his svara is Madach, if you would do it, it's puzzle. So to machshav, it's puzzle. So we got to figure out all these cases. Why be machshav? It's not puzzle. Okay, now says the Gemara. V'niflagu nami Rabbi Yehuda v'kuloi. Let Rabbi Yehuda argue in all the cases. Says the Gemara, b'hai niflag. What should he argue in? B'shoiver at samas pesach v'lechol mimenu no. So guys, what am I doing? I'm bringing a carbon pesach, and I have in mind to eat it the way I'm not supposed to eat it, or to break a bone. Is that part of the carbon, or it's a separate halacha in the meat of the carbon? You know, it's the latter, right? So, zivcha gufa mi mifsal. If you would go ahead and physically bring the carbon pesach, and at a later time break the bone, or at a later time not cook it well, would the carbon pesach be a good carbon? Absolutely. So of course Rabbi Yehuda says the machshava can't passel. In other words, it's geschmack. It's true. I get malchus for this, and I'm over on a lav. But it doesn't passel the carbon. Memela the machshava doesn't passel. Continuing along. Al menashe yochlu tameim, usheyakrivu tameim. I'm bringing the carbon al menas that tameim will eat it, or tameim will burn the imurim. You did a good zrika. Zivcha gufa mi mifsal? Would the carbon be passel? No. Sheyachlu arelim, usheyakruvu arelim. Arelim should eat it, or be makrav de imurim. Zivcha gufa mi mifsal? They won't passel. So memela, the machshav of that doesn't passel. Lishnachrina, kol kamina. 1 second. Guys, I'm a kohen. I'm shechting the carbon. I'll manas that the tmeim should eat it. Like, can I guarantee that guy's tummy is going to eat it? I can't force him to eat it. The guy's in Hurl. Can I guarantee the Hurl's going to eat it? No, it's not biyadai. It's not biyadai. So since it's not biyadai, then what? Then it's not possible. So in Mela, I've answered up a few of the cases. I answered up by Karm Pesach. I answered up by Arelim. I answered up by Tameim. Good. Now, in addition, fellas, if you look at the Mishnah on the Amid Aleph, 4 lines down, it says, "Ulo'arev damai b'dama psulim," to mix the dam in the dam of the psulim, right? L'chayra, that passels, right? L'chayra passels. You're talking about before this Rika. Says the Gemara, "Ulo'arev damai b'dama psulim." Rabbi Yehuda tamei damar ein dam mevatel dam. Rabbi Yehuda goes according to his reasoning that dam is not mevatel dam. So even though there's dam pasel, I have dam kosher, and I throw on the mizbeach. That's good. Okay. Now, notice it left the earlier cases for later. The earlier cases, litain esanitonim lemaila lemata. If I shecht on the condition to bring blood that should go above below, or lemata lemaila that should go above below above. Rabbi Yehuda tamei. Rabbi Yehuda goes according to his reasoning. The Amar shaloi mim koimoi nami mikoimoi karina bei. We met Rabbi Yehuda earlier. Shaloi mim koimoi is kim koimoi. So guys, look at the Mishnah. Back in the Amid base, right? Look at the Mishnah. Al manas litain al gabi hakevesh shaloi, right? L'choira or shaloi keneged yasoid. Why or litain esanitana lamaila lamata esanitana lamata lamaila esanitana. Okay, stop right there. Why is that good? It's possible, and the answer is like Rabbi Yehuda is not. Shloimim koimai is kim koimai dami. So therefore, Rabbi Yehuda said, if you have the machshava, since the svara is, you did it physically, you would passel. So machshava it passels. Physically, it wouldn't passel. Okay, so now why? Shloimim koimai is kim koimai dami. Continue the Mishnah, guys. Let's continue the top line. Besanitonim bifnim bachutz. Besanitonim bachutz bifnim. So I have a carbon that the dam should be put inside, I'm doing it outside, and the dam of a carbon that should be do outside, I'm doing inside. Fred the Gemara, now back by us. The liflug b'nitonim b'fnim shenosnam b'chutz, v'nitonim b'chutz shenosnam b'fnim. Okay, guys, outside. I got a tremendous kasha for you. You just told me Rabbi Yehuda holds shaloi bim koimai is kim koimai dami. Right? You just told me he holds shaloi bim koimai is kim koimai dami. So what's your kasha from bifnim and bachutz? Shaloi bim koimai is kim koimai dami. In other words, why is this? Why do you ask the kasha? L'chayra, the above and below answers it. Above or below is shleim kaimai. Inside, outside shleim kaimai. You hear the kasha? It's a great kasha. You know who asks it? Rashi. It's such a good kasha. Rashi asks it, guys. So the Rashi is parallel to the Gemara. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, about 9, 10 lines up. It says, "Vanitanim bachutz shechasel litem b'fnim kamakshi." I'm not asking from the inside to the outside. I'm asking from the outside to the inside. The Hasan Vadai, he have a yoiv chatas chitzayne b'fnim. If you do an outside chatas inside, mifsla, it becomes puzzle. Dichsiv v'chol chatas ashayuva min dama. Geschmackig teretz, guys. Listen what he says. He's not asking from the inside chatas to the outside chatas. He's asking from the outside chatas to the inside chatas, but not because of shleibim kaimai, but because the dam of the chatas outside becomes puzzle when you put it inside. Guys, there's a special din by chatas. If you take the chatas that goes outside and bring it into the heichel, it becomes puzzle. That's the kasha. It's not from the. He's not asking from outside to inside. It's like inside to outside. He's not answering from inside to outside. That why? Because shleibim kaimai is bim kaimai. It should be on the gold, but you're putting it on the outside. I already said above, below. Okay, the kasha is a chatos that should go outside, and you're bringing it inside. But the kasha is not from shleibim kaimai. The kasha is the fact that the dam, as soon as it comes inside, is puzzle. So if that's puzzle, the machshava should also puzzle. Why does the machshava of a chatas chitzonius that you're going to bring bifnim not puzzle? If the dam would be puzzle, l'chayra, you have no option there. And according to the svara, the machshava should also puzzle. Okay? Is that okay or not okay? One more time. One more time. Okay. Guys, we're saying the following. Look at me. Look at me. Above, below, we asked that in machshava doesn't passel. Why? Because Rabbi Yehuda is of the opinion shaloimim kaimai is kim kaimai dami. So I put it over here when it's supposed to be over here, or I put it over here when it's supposed to be over here. Okay, now that was north-south. Let's go east-west, right? Let's go. Look at me. Let's go east-west. East being inside the heichel by the golden mizbeach, west being what? By the outside mizbeach. So now, if I have machshava this to this, or machshava this to this, says Rabbi Yehuda, it doesn't pass though. Right? The Gemara says, why not? Freg Rashi, I'll tell you why not. Because he just said, shaloibim koimai is kim koimai dami. So what's the difference, this to this, and this? And for Rashi, we're not speaking about this to this. We're not speaking about shaloibim koimai. We're speaking about this to this. Now, what's this to this? Why has nothing to do with shaloibim koimai? Because as soon as, let your fingers do the walking, guys. Right? You go in, you walk in. As soon as you get here, as soon as you pass by the heichel, guess what? Finished. Finito. The dam is puzzle. Why? Because you brought a chatas inside. That's the kasha. Not because of chutzlam koimai. The kasha is because the dam is now puzzle, because you brought it inside. So it's only from that case they're asking. Okay? Fred the Gemara kasha. V'liflug b'nisnim b'fnim shnasnim b'chutz v'nisnim b'chutz shnasnim b'fnim. It's not so meduyik, right? Okay. And for the Gemara, Ksav Rabbi Yehuda is of the opinion, ba'in in makam shehi mishulish b'dam b'basa o b'imurim. Because we had this earlier, fellas. In order for machshava chutz l'makam or chutz l'zman to be poil, it has to be something that is that b'shas het abamis. B'shas het abamis, you could do a zrika b'chutz, you can eat the dam b'chutz, you can burn the emurim b'chutz. Let's say it's a place that you can't do that, then the machshava won't passel. Could you go ahead and burn meat inside the heichel? Can't. The neighbor the machshava to go ahead and do it's not going to passel. Even though the dam is puzzle, he holds you need a makam mishulish. That place that you could do srika, you could do what? You could eat the basar, and that doesn't apply to the heichel. And therefore, if you have machshava of inside, outside to inside, it's not going to pass. Fred Gemara, Isle Rabbi Yehuda Haisvara, to Rabbi Yehuda hold you need a place that's a makam mishulish. Tanya Rabbi Yehuda Omer, Rabbi Yehuda says, the pasuk says, Leisizbach Lashem Elokecha Shor V'Seh Asher Yeh Boimum Kol Davara Ki Ta'avas Hashem Elokecha Hu. Right? Hashem. Now, Kol Davara. What does that mean? Ribu Kan Chata Sheshachta B'Daram. Chata Shchita is supposed to be in the tzafon. It's supposed to be in the B'Daram. And here's what we need: the Chata Shenichnas Dam Lefnim. And chatas that you brought inside. Rashi says not only that you brought inside, but you thought of bringing inside. 1 second. If you need a makam mishulish, why should it be pasul? It says psula, but 1 second. You just told me you need a makam mishulish, but inside it's not a makam mishulish. You can't eat meat there and you can't burn meat there. Says the Gemara. So the Gemara says, why do you see? So you don't need a makam mishulish. Says the Gemara, let's do yud in the shita, yud guys. The less later Rabbi Yehuda Haisvara? You mean Rabbi Yehuda does not hold of it? In other words, I have clearly a raya. Rabbi Yehuda says you do not need a makam mishulish when you're chayiv for bringing the blood inside or thinking about bringing the blood inside. 1 second. The less later Haisvara v'tanan Amar Rabbi Yehuda hichnis b'shoigeg kasha haben mezid pasel. If you bring it inside, it's kasha. If you bring it inside mezid, it's pasel. The kaimalon, we're speaking about bringing the blood inside. B'shekipar, you know when b'mezid it's pasel, fellas. Look at me. It's not just bringing it in, but you have to put it on the mizbeach. It's not just bringing it in; you have to put it on the mizbeach. Oh, now, uma hasam, we physically brought it in. Aili aila ikipa ini like lo. If you put it on the mizbeach, yes, not. Hacha dechashiv cheshuve. Here you just thought about doing it, like kol shekain that you should not be chayiv. So the chari you have what? A stira. One place saying that the machshava would passel. Why? Because you don't need a makam mishulish. A second place the machshava doesn't passel because you do need a makam mishulish. How do you reconcile the two? Says the Gemara, Trei Tanoi v'Alibud Rabbi Yehuda. We have two Tanoim in Rabbi Yehuda. That's always the easiest way out. We have machlekes Tanoim as Rabbi Yehuda held. According to the first Pesha, you need a makam mishulish. The second one, you need a makam mishulish. Fred the Gemara. Now, along the way, we discussed bringing a chatas in the south rather than the north. And we said that Rabbi Yehuda says it's kasha. He says it's kasha. He says if Rabbi Yehuda chatas sheshachta b'darim amid beis, Rabbi Yehuda says a chatas sheshach nedarim is chayiv. I would think you should be chayiv. Rabbi Yehuda yachol chatas sheshachta b'darim chayiv. Tameloim loy sizbach l'Hashem elokecha shor se kol davara. Al davara atem chayiv aviatem chayiv al chatas sheshachta b'darim. So you have conflicting reports. Are you chayiv or not for shechting a chatas in the north? Says the Gemara, Trei Tanoi Libud Rabbi Yehuda. You have two Tanoim according to Rabbi Yehuda. So Rabbi Yehuda has held serve. Guys, let's go back to the Mishnah. Rabbi Yehuda Paisel, of course it's a svara. Madach, if you would do it physically, it'd be puzzle. Who adin if you had the machshava. Chom machshir. Amnasli tein al gabi kevesh shlei kenegad yisoid. Ulitein es in the Talmud L'mayla. Mata ves in Talmud L'mayla. Mata, since all these places, fellas, are what is Shlomim Komo. Rabbi Yehuda's of the opinion Shlomim Komo is from Komo Dami. Therefore, in his svara, it wouldn't passel. So since it doesn't passel in mitzias, in physical mitzias, it's not going to passel in machshava. Vesanitanim lifnim bachutz. That's not the kasha. That's Shlomim Komo. Vesanitanim bachutz bifnim. That's the kasha. I lechor you have the psul of what of. Guys, you have the psul of bring the chatas dam inside. What's the answer? It's not a makam mishulish. You need a makam mishulish b'chayv, and you're not. Right? Sheyachlu v'tameim sheikru v'tameim sheichlu v'areilim v'shikru v'areilim. We had two pshatim. What was the two pshatim? One that it's not gufa part of the korban. It's a zaytika part. What sveitens that you can't force a person to tell me to eat it or another to eat it. L'shaber at somas a pesach lechol imenu na. Right? In those cases, what? Not part of the Pesach, right? It's separate. Zaytika. A zaytika din. It's a separate din. Memela bata machshava and pasel. Loriv doma b'dam hapsulim kasha. Why is it kasha? Because ain't dam mevatel dam according to Rabbi Yehuda. Shem machshava. Okay, geshmak. Just did the Mishnah. Geshmak is anything. Yes. I like when I say geshmak is anything, and everyone just sits still like. Okay, now Geschmack means geschmack. Get alive a little bit. Just be a little alive. Okay, now the Gemara digresses a little bit. The Gemara is going to digress and discuss, like Rabbi Yehuda, a few interesting dinim. Okay. Amar Rav Abba. We guess Rava. Let's keep the guess. Amar Rav Abba. Umoid Rabbi Yehuda shechayzer v'koyval lepigel. Okay, guys. I do a shchita al menas to leave the blood over till the next day. Al menas to leave the blood over the next day. I then go ahead and finish it squeaky clean. And I have a machshava of pigel. In other words, I do the Kabbalah to go ahead and do the Srika tomorrow. Or Shleibim Kaimai. So now, what do we know about pigel? Guys, it's got to be the only game in town is machshava of pigel. Rabbi Yehuda's Maida says, Ravada, listen, that what? If you have the machshava of haniach, guys, so look, in the shchita have the machshava of haniach, and then in the halach, Kabbalah halacha srika have chutzlas man, it would be pigel. That's a chiddush nifla. Why? Because usually the only right you have to carve matal atira. You have to do everything squeaky clean except the pigel. And here you're telling me no. If you have that machshava, he's moides as Ravada. That guess what? It's going to be pigel. And that machshava v'niach is not going to leave over. Listen, it tells you why. Guys, watch this outside. Listen to this raya. I have in mind to do this rika tomorrow. So automatically, it's chutzlas man, right? But automatically, I'm leaving it over. By saying I'm doing it tomorrow, what am I saying? I'm leaving it over, yes? And nonetheless, if you have the zrika, if you have that, it's gonna come pigel. It's fascinating. In other words, in every chutzlas man is the svara of not svara is the leaving it over. I'm shechning carbon. Al menas to do the zrika tomorrow. Okay, so what did I just say? I'm leaving it over till tomorrow. That's hiniach to do the zrika, and nonetheless it's pigel. Says Rav Ada, that's a geshmak haraya. It's not such a geshmak haraya. Why? What's the difference, fellas? Watch. Over there, it was one machshava. In the process of saying I'm going to spritz it tomorrow, including in that lashon is two things. Over here, I have two separate things. I shechted to leave it over, and then I did a kabbalah to the zrika. To machshavas ken zayin, it wouldn't be pigel. So your raya is nishkan raya. Beautiful, beautiful. So let's see it inside. Amravada. Umayder of Yehuda shechayze v'koyvel pigel. That if you have a machshava of pigel, even though this machshava of yinuach, it's not going to be it's not going to be ma'ak of the pigel. It's going to be a good pigel. Amarava teida the pigel l'fnei srika leiklumu. Pigel l'fnei srika is nothing. For asti srika v'kovel of a pigel. Okay, what it means is what I just told you. It means that before the srika there wasn't anything, even though you had the machshava of chutz l'makoim, chutz of the next day, and then you do a zrika. V'loihi, it's not a good sushtel. Hasam hu chada machshavahi. There you had one machshava to do the zrika the next day, and automatically included in the zrika is the svar of leaving it over. Hacha over here, like Rabbi Yehuda, chei machshavas. You have two machshavas, right? You had machshav in the shchita, for example, of leaving it over, and the machshav in the kabbalah lacha zrika of chutz l'sman. Guys, good? Okay. Now we're gonna slug up Rav Abba. Guys, we're gonna knock Rav Abba out. Esrei Rav Huna Rav Abba. Litein es hanitonim lemaila lemata. I shecht on the with condition to do it in the wrong place. Lemata lemaila laalter. If it's that day, kosher. If that's day, we had this Gemara earlier. It's kosher, not a problem. Chazar v'chishef chutzim koimei. Right. If I go ahead and have a machshav of chutzim makoy, pasal ve'mekaris chutzis manay pigel v'chayil mekaris. So guys, I have machshava to do it the wrong place, right? But that day, I'm going to do it that day, and then I have machshava chutzis man chutzis makom, it will be pigel. Why? Because in fact, that machshava, I put it in the right place. So that machshava is negated because I put it in the right place. What about this? This is where the upshlag is going to be. L'machar, guys, I had a machshava. Guys, listen, I had a machshava shleimim koimai, up and down, right, above, below, for the next day. So I had a machshava of the wrong place. for the next day, meaning I'm going to leave it over for the next day, let you Rav Abba, it should be pigel. Guys, what did you do? This is what you did. Guys, what did you do? Watch. I had a machshava to leave it over for the next day to do the srika up and above. And then I had a machshava of pigel. Like you, Rabbi Yehuda, like you, Rav Adan, Rabbi Yehuda, it should be pigel. And it's not. And this is a brisa, it's Tanoim. Rav Abba, tiyufta, the Rav Abba, tiyufta, you're out. Says the Gemara. Lemachar, if I had the machshava of the wrong place to do it the next day, puzzle, it's puzzle. And therefore, you know why? Because the machshava of pigel doesn't help. You Rav Abba, it should help. On that, the Gemara says, Tiyufta the Rav Abba, Tiyufta, you're out. You Rav Abba, you've been knocked out. That what? That the machshava of niach, according to Rabbi Yehuda, in fact, would stop the pigel. It would be puzzle, but you wouldn't be chayiv for chutz l'zman. You won't be chayiv kares. Amar Rav Chisda Ravina bar Sila. Chishev. Now this is not according to Rabbi Yehuda. According to Rashi, this is not according to Rabbi Yehuda. Chishev sheyachluchu tameim lemachar. You had the machshava of chutz l'zman, but to feed it to tameim. Chayiv, if a person eats it, you be chayiv kares for pigel. In other words, feeding it to tameim is not going to go ahead and say that you don't. What are you going to say? It's not an achila. You're going to say feeding to me is not an achila, and therefore it's no pigel. No, chayiv, it is a pigel. Amarava teida. I'll bring you a proof. The basa of neisrika lechazi basa before you do srika, you can't eat it. So it's like tameim. They can't eat it. V'chi machshav bei, and when you have the machshav of chutz l'zman mifsal, it becomes puzzle. Right. So the same thing over here. That you had machshava of chutz l'zman ifad tameim. It should be pigel. V'loihi. It's not a good raya. Hasim zorik umichsei. There, good before zrika, you can eat it. But it's not because it's similar to tameim. It's because at this point, no one can eat it. Guys, before the zrika, no one can eat it. Not only, no, what do you want to say? Guys, look. You want to say before zrika is similar to tamei. They both can't eat it. But it's for totally different reasons. By tameim, it could be eaten, but they're tamei. Over here, no one can eat it because you can't eat meat before the zrika. There's no heta for the achila. Hacha by tameim, they mix it cloud. The tameim can't eat it at all. So your raya is nishkan raya. Again, you want to bring a raya from lefnei zrika to tameim. Lefnei zrika, no one can eat it. No one. Lachas zrika, tameim, it's not tameim. It's not seen to them, but other people could. Amrav Chisda. Magla b'pumad Rav Dimi bar Chinra. There was a magla pumad. This was this was something that he was known for saying. Literally a pearl in his mouth. Basa Pesach shleichut sloi. Basa Pesach that you didn't roast. V'lachmei toider shleichurmoi. And you didn't separate the four. You know, you had 40, and you had to separate. You had to separate for the. You had to separate for the kohen, and you didn't say it wasn't. You didn't separate it yet. Chayav malei mishum tuma. If you tummy tumas aguf and you eat the lachmei toida, right, or before hormoi or the korban pesach, before it was roasted, you be chayav. Even though usually the rule of thumb is in order to be chayav for tummy, it has to be something that could be eaten b'taira. These can't be eaten b'taira, guys. If it's not burnt, if it's not roasted, you shouldn't eat the korban pesach. If it's not hormoi, you shouldn't. So usually the rule of thumb is if a Torah can't eat it, then the Torah could eat it, then it's tamei is chayiv. If a Torah can't eat it, then the tamei is pater. So over here it can't be eaten, and the chiddush is of Rav Dimi bar Chinna, despite the fact that it can't be eaten, if you eat it, b'tumah you'll be chayiv. Okay. Amar Rava Teida says Rava, I will bring you a proof. Says Rava, I'll bring you a proof. It says va'nefesh asher toichel basar v'zevach hashlamim, and a nefesh that eats basar from the zevach of hashlamim, asher laHashem, the tumasay love, right? So asher laHashem. What do we darshan? L'rabbis emuri kachi kalim the tuma. Guys, can anyone eat kachim kalim? The emurim go to Hashem. We have a pasuk that says asher laHashem, that if a person would eat the emurim of kachim kalim bituma, you'd be chayiv. So what do you see? Kachim kalim emurim, which you can't eat, a tahor can't eat it. Nonetheless, what if a tamei eats it? You chayiv. Hu adin, the basar of the korban pesach that wasn't roasted, or the lachmei toida that was not separated, you'd also be chayiv. even though the Torah can't eat it. That's the raya to Rav Dimi. Says the Gemara, Afal gav the loiv b'nei chilininu, even though the imurim are not something that can be eaten, nonetheless chayav maleim b'chayav on them, mishum tuma, hachanami here too, by the Pesach that wasn't broiled, and the lachmei toida that were not separated, afal gav the loiv b'nei chilininu, chayav maleim mishum tuma. The loihi, not a good zushtel. Chasam, imuri koshem kalim, chazil gavoya. They could be eaten. Who could they be eaten by? The Mizbeach. Someone can eat it. Not a human being, but the Mizbeach could eat it. La fuke b'sar pesach shlei hutzloi v'lach mitoider shlei humoy shlei chazi loy legavoya v'loy lehedjit. No one can eat it. So you tzushtel, you want a tzushtel to imuri lachme kachem kalim is not a good tzushtel. Good physically a person can eat it, but it could be eaten by the Mizbeach. Therefore, if a person that's tummy eats it, he'd be chayiv. Mashenkin basa of Karm Pesach that wasn't broiled, or lachmei toida that was lehumu that no one can eat it, einachinami, right? You would be chayiv b'tuma. Your raya is nishkan raya. Your raya is not a raya. It seems to be that it's brought down la halacha, this din of tuma. But Rambam seems to bring it down. Just what the raya is nishkan raya. Hajjal kal psulim, hajjal kal psulim, hajjal kal psulim. You know, guys, I feel